there, welcome back to Knits by Lizzy. My name is Lizzy and I'm a vegan knitter from New Hampshire, and this is my channel where I talk about all things knitting. And today I have a knitting podcast for you today where I'm going to give you a WIP update on all of the projects I have going on. And it really is going to be a WIP parade today since I have 3 WIPs to tell you about, 3 WIP garments and no finished objects because I have so many WIPs going on. It has been a little overwhelming to have 3 sweaters or full garments going on at the same time, but also it's been pretty fun. So I'm very excited to tell you all about it today. I have one update from a new cast on from my last knitting podcast, which is the Pearly Cardigan by Lea Ambar that I'm test knitting for her. And then I have 2 new cast ons that I discussed in my last podcast were coming, and now they're here. So that will be the Staffin Sweater by the Rebecca, which I am hosting a knit along for, and then also I've cast on a Monday sweater by Petite Knit, which I'm knitting for my grandma. So if any of that interests you, I invite you to grab your own project and hang out with us as we chat about some knitting, and I will get into my WIPs. So the first work in progress that I'm going to start with today is the Staffin Sweater by Rebecca Clow of the Rebecca, and this is an all-over textured sweater that is knit in a raglan style, and the pattern when you purchase it actually comes with instructions for a sweater and also a pattern for a cardigan and a vest. I am knitting the sweater version, and I'm knitting this for the Staffin Cow that I'm hosting along with Black Dog Knits. And so I mentioned this in my last podcast, but I just want to remind you guys that this is still going on. We're going to be hosting this knit along all the way up until March 15th, so you can pretty much join anytime until March 15th. And it's a casual knit along where we have a group chat on Instagram, and it's been a really fun group to kind of like hang out with online and talk to other people about this pattern. Throughout the cow already, there have been times when there have been several people who have run into issues with this pattern, just trying to understand what Rebecca Clow is trying to say. And so I think that this is definitely a pattern where it is nice to have other people to kind of like check yourself on, or of saying, this is what I think that the pattern is trying to say. Is this what you think the pattern is trying to say? And there's been times when, you know, people have started and then had to rip back and start over. And so I think this is definitely like the perfect pattern to have a knit along for, to have a cow for, because we have this like support group to help each other with this pattern that it's really not that complicated of a pattern necessarily. Like you have a block of 2x2 ribbing, and then you have a block where you have these faux baubles, and then you have another block that is knits and purls, making sort of like diamond texture, and then that just repeats over and over again. And so that in itself isn't too complicated, but because the pattern is so big, like you have the sweater and the cardigan and the vest, there's just kind of a lot going on, and there's written instructions for the texture, and then there's also lots of charts, and there's a different chart for the sleeves and the front and the back and all the different sizes. So there's just kind of a lot going on, and so that can make it kind of an overwhelming pattern to look through, and so I definitely have been struggling with that, and there have been other people in the chat that have been struggling with that, and so I'm really glad that Delaney of Black Dog Knits and I decided to start this cow, because I personally have been finding it really helpful to have other people to talk with, and I think other people have too. So I also wanted to say that if you have already started this pattern and you are, like many of us, have been struggling with trying to understand exactly what you're supposed to be doing, even if you've already cast on this pattern, you're still welcome to join the cow. So if you are interested in either casting this on, or you've already cast it on and you want to knit this sweater or cardigan or vest with us, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram at knits.by.lizzy, and then I will just add you to the group chat. Like I said, this is a very casual knit along, so it's just really a group chat on Instagram. We're going to use hashtag Staffin Cow to keep track of when people post pictures of their work in progress or their finished object. But we're not going to do any sort of prizes or anything, just keeping it, you know, chill and fun and casual. So that is the Staffin Cow, and so now I can show you what I've been doing. So I am knitting size 2 of the sweater version, and I'm knitting mine, I guess before I show you, I'm knitting mine out of 2 yarns held together. So I'm using Hobbii Amigo which is a DK weight yarn in a gray color, and then I'm holding it with a gray color of Lammy yarn Soft Sensations of a vegan mohair, and I'm holding them together. You can see that the color match here is pretty good. It's actually even better in the garment than it looks on here, so I'll show you what I've got so far. This has definitely not been my main WIP, but the gauge is 16 stitches for 10 centimeters, so it's pretty big gauge, and I'm knitting mine on 5.5mm needles in order to achieve gauge. So I've been knit on this maybe like 3 or 4 sessions in the past few weeks, and I've already, you know, halfway through the yoke. So I'll show you what I've got so far. It's a little bit scrunched up on different needles here. But you start out with the 2x2 ribbed part of it, and then you move into the faux baubles. I think at one point Crave has called them Estonian buttons, so if that helps to tell you what these are. They're called faux baubles, but in my experience with what you do to make a bauble, it's really just like a very small bauble, I think. So yeah, so there's a little bit of baubles, and so the pattern goes through the 2x2 rib, faux baubles, diamond, faux baubles, and then it repeats. And so for the yoke, so I've done the 2x2 ribbing and then the faux bauble part, and I'm just about to enter into the diamond repeat, and so I think that puts me about halfway through the yoke. And it has been a pretty engaging knit. Like I said, the pattern has had, is a little bit confusing in the sense of, I just have had to read it a couple times in order to know what to do. It's not like an instant, oh yes, of course. Once you understand what she's saying, there is the, oh yes, of course moment. But yeah, I have had to read it a couple times, which actually does give me like a little bit of pause on, we've got a kitty here. It has given me a little bit of pause on whether I want to knit more Crayabea patterns. I really love most of her designs. Like the product is really nice. Here we go, kitty. The product is really nice, but I don't know if this is an unusually confusing pattern for her or if her other patterns are written more clearly. I actually do have in my pattern library the Cara, I believe it's called, the Cara wrap, which is a wrap cardigan that she came out with pretty recently, maybe back in November, I want to say, because I applied to test knit that pattern, but I didn't get chosen. And if you apply to test knit a pattern, Rebecca gives you an extra discount when the pattern does get released as a kind of a thank you for showing your interest, which is really nice of her. I really respect her as a designer, and so I really want to support her and knit her patterns because I respect her as a designer, and then also because I do love her designs. But so far it has just been, I've just been having to get used to her writing style. I'll just say that. It's just, I have never made any of her patterns before, and I think that's it, is that I need to get used to her writing style, and perhaps once I've made one of her patterns, then it will make more sense for me to knit some of her other patterns, because I know that her patterns are quite popular, and so if so many knitters were having a lot of trouble understanding what she was trying to say, I feel like she wouldn't be as popular as she is. So I'm guessing that it must be one of those things where I just kind of need to get used to how she writes things is all. But it has been fun seeing this texture come to life in the few times that I have worked on it. I am hoping that I can see the baubles a bit more as things kind of progress, because the faux baubles I feel like are kind of like disappearing. Like there's one right there. I don't know if you can even see it. I am like tempted to maybe make some real baubles in place of the faux baubles just so they stick out more. I'm not sure if I want some like really big dangly bobbly things in the sweater, so maybe not. But I think if I did real baubles, they would stand out more. It also might be one of the things where the way that I'm knitting over the bauble might be changing how much it's like poking out, and so I think I might just need to do a little bit of fiddling in order to get the exact look that I want. But this sweater has quite a bit of short rows for the shaping, and it's a raglan style, so in terms of like how you're doing the increases is pretty intuitive to me, as I've done a lot of raglans. So yeah, this has been pretty fun so far, and it's gonna knit up really quickly. The Amigo held with the Lammy yarn Soft Sensation is a combination that I've done once before on a bit of a tighter gauge. So I did it before on an 18 stitch gauge, and now I'm doing it on a 16 stitch gauge. However, I think a 16 stitch gauge for a DK and a mohair held together makes a lot more sense than what I was doing before. I really probably shouldn't have been knitting a DK and a mohair for a 18 stitch gauge. That seems like a little bit too much. So I think this is a good yarn combination for this gauge. Another thing that I'm doing with this sweater, which is really fun, is that to differentiate between the part where I did my short rows and the part where I'm actually starting the entire pattern repeat, I was able to make use of my new progress keepers that my sister got me for Christmas. So I've got these very cute little tulip progress keepers that I showed you guys as an acquisition in my last episode, and so I was really excited to have a good use for them, and so I put that progress keeper there when I was finished with the short rows. This is like close to the beginning of round, so I was finished with the short rows, but needed to know how long I was into the pattern repeat, and then the short rows could throw that off, because you start with you do 2x2 ribbing as part of the short rows, and then the pattern repeat starts off with 2x2 ribbing, and so you could think that you were further into the pattern repeat than you were, and so she has a little note in there to suggest that you mark when you've started the actual pattern repeat, and so I said, oh, perfect, I've got these new tulip progress keepers that my sister got me for Christmas. I get to use them, so that's been really fun. So that is the Staffin Sweater by the Crea Bea that I am hosting a cow for, and if you would like to knit this with me and Delaney and a few other people, feel free to DM me on Instagram and I will add you to the group chat. So my next work in progress has definitely been my main WIP in the past 2 weeks, and in my last progress update 2 weeks ago, I hadn't even cast this on yet. I think I cast it on like 2 or 3 days, maybe 3 days after my last progress update, and that is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit, which I have made before, but I am making this again for my grandma. So a quick recap is that when I was home for Christmas, I was able to see a lot of family members, including my grandma, and she asked if I could make her a sweater, and she said any sweater in any shade of green, which I was really excited about because green is one of my favorite colors too, and I really haven't knit that much in green, and so it was a good opportunity to knit more in green. We got a kitty sniffing camera. So when she asked me that, I said, yes, of course, I would love to knit you a sweater. And at first I was thinking that I was going to make it for her for next Christmas, but that's a full year away and I didn't really want to wait that long. I was too excited to make something for her. So my hope was to make this for her birthday, which is February 5th. It's not gonna be done by then, which is only like 10-ish days away, but I'm hoping to finish this for her in the month of February, so it's done in her birthday month, and then send it to her. And so this is my Monday sweater by Petite Knit that I'm knitting for my grandma. And so I have just joined under the arms, and I'm knitting it in green, and I'm really into marling recently. I'm really loving like how that kind of fabric looks, and how you can like really play with colors in that way. And this is so soft. So let me tell you about the yarn. I am holding a Cascade Yarns Cherub DK in Ivy Heather, and this is a DK weight, but it is a very thin DK, and I kind of thought I was going to be able to just do this, but then I realized that I needed a mohair, and so I ordered a light green mohair of Lammy Yarn Soft Sensations so that I can hold them together. Obviously these are not the same color, but they are both different shades of green, and I had a kind of yellowish green mohair that I was considering holding it with, and I'm so glad that I ordered this mohair because I'm really loving how this is looking. So this is an acrylic polyamide blend, and this is an acrylic and nylon blend, and the fabric that they are creating is so soft. And I kind of already knew that it was going to be this amazing because I had used the fingering version of Cherub, which is Cherub sock, held with this same mohair before when I knit a holly sweater, and that fabric I absolutely loved. And so I figured that holding the DK weight version, which is really more like a sport or a light sport, like it's really not a DK, holding that with a mohair would be just as amazing, and it is. So this is, I don't know if you can tell like how light this is. It's like really drapey and light, and the mohair is really coming through to make it super duper soft. And so I think this is gonna be, yeah, just like a really great finished object for my grandma, and I'm really loving how these two colors are coming together to form this really fun, mild green color. It really makes me want to make a green sweater for myself. Yeah, this has been clearly my main WIP. I have gone all the way through the yoke. and I am making her a size 4. However, my gauge is on for this pattern if I was holding the fingering weight version of Cherub sock together with the mohair, but because I'm holding the DK weight version of Cherub with the mohair, my gauge is more like 19.5 stitches instead of 21. And so because my gauge is larger, I am getting a garment that is close to a size 5, maybe a tiny bit smaller than a size 5, which is good because I kind of wanted a garment that was in between sizes 4 and 5, like more like a 4.75, and I think this is exactly what I'm going to be getting. So all's well that ends well. At first, I thought I was going to be knitting this garment holding this Cherub DK single, but I didn't like the fabric that it created, and holding it with this is giving me a fabric that I really, really like, and I'm able to achieve a garment size that is what I'm looking for. So it's all working out. This project has been really nice to fall back onto every single evening in the past 2 weeks, and kind of just meditatively work on a basic raglan. The Monday sweater I have made, like I said, I made it once before, and it fits so well, and it is so relaxing to knit because it's such a basic raglan, but then you know you're gonna get this product that works really well, and so like that's really nice to know. So I really can't say enough nice things about the Monday sweater pattern by Petite Knit. I really think that if you were looking for a go-to raglan sweater pattern, it's the Monday sweater. I really, really like it. But yeah, not much more to say on this because it is a basic raglan, just that I've been really liking it, and my goal is to finish this by like mid-February so that I can send it to my grandma and that she'll receive it before the end of February. So I'm onto the body now. She said she wanted a pretty long body because she likes her sweaters long, and so I'm gonna try to get it to like 63 centimeters from the collar. And so I'm probably just gonna go through all the yarn that I have and then finish then. So if I'm gonna do that, then I'm probably gonna move on to the sleeves. Honestly, I might move on to the sleeves when I finish these next balls of yarn, knit the sleeves, and then just knit away on the body until I'm out of yarn, or obviously if it gets crazy long, I'll stop. But then I'll just keep knitting until most of my yarn is gone. So that is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. The final WIP that I have to tell you about is an update from what was a new cast on in the last episode, and that is the Pearly Cardigan by Lea Ambar that I'm test knitting for her, and I'm test knitting size 3, and I am actually knitting this for my older sister. Since I have a lot of cardigan plans on my queue, I thought that I would give this cardigan to my older sister, and so per her request, I'm knitting this in a light blue color with cream highlights. This cardigan is a saddle shoulder construction, but the really cool thing about it is that it has this I-cord edging outlining like every section of the garment, like each panel, and so you have all of these I-cord edges. So I'm knitting mine with a contrast color of cream for all the I-cords, and then my main color is a light blue, and I'm creating this marled light blue color by holding Cherub sock in white with Lammy Soft Sensations in light blue together. And so the light blue is really coming through. Obviously I'm still getting a marled look with the white, but I'm kind of having a marled moment, as I said, and really loving just combining colors together. But I still think like you look at this and you think light blue at first, and then you kind of look closer and like, oh, that's marled. So watching this fabric come together has been really cool as well, kind of similar to the Monday sweater. So as I said, I'm test knitting this for Lea Ambar, who reached out to me to ask me if I wanted to test knit it, and I was very happy to do so. Last week I had finished one of these front panels, and I had moved on to this other panel, and now I have completed that last front panel and the back, and so I am now done with the yoke and can move on to some more I-cording and the body. However, the test knit deadline for this pattern is all the way through the end of March, and so because I have some deadlines on my Monday sweater, once I cast on my Monday sweater, went from being my main WIP to a backseat WIP, and now that the yoke is done, I think I'm gonna kind of put it aside for a bit because I have been getting a bit overwhelmed having so many sweater WIPs at the same time. It's kind of like I don't know what to work on. I kind of work on everything and nothing at the same time. I don't know. It's been a little bit too much. I, in hindsight, should not have cast on so many things, but what we're gonna do, I love them all. So I think what I'm gonna do, because I have all the way till the end of March to finish this, is put this on a back seat until I finish my Monday sweater, and then once the Monday sweater is done, I can pick this back up now that I hit a good stopping point of being done with the yoke. And I should have enough time to finish by the end of March for sure. It probably will be done before then. But I had a lot of fun knitting the yoke because it's definitely different from the Monday sweater. Like, the knitting experience is different from knitting the Monday sweater, which is a basic raglan, like I was saying. It's kind of mindless. This yoke, in contrast, was very engaging because there's so many different parts that you're doing. So first, you know, you're casting on the saddle shoulder, then you just knit this like patch of the saddle shoulder, and then you have to do a lot of picking up stitches for this pattern because you need to pick up stitches to add the I-cord, and then you create the I-cord, and then you pick up stitches to put your main fabric going off of the I-cord from there. And so there's kind of always something next to do, and each part, at least for the yoke, doesn't really take that long because it's split up into lots of different parts. And so it was kind of potato chippy in that way, where I was, okay, I'll do this one little section, and then the next day I was like, oh, I'll do this one little section, I'm already done with that section. Okay, now I'll pick up all these stitches and do that section. And so that kind of like keeps you going through it. So it was really engaging, and I do think it's kind of on the line where it was relaxing in the way that it was fun, but not relaxing in the same way that just knitting straight stockinette without having to think about anything. So of course it's just different. I feel like different knitting projects have different purposes, you know? So this is like in between a super engaging and a totally relaxing knit, but it has been really fun. I do think that it will be less like that now that I'm done with the yoke and now just on the body, but there's still lots of like I-cord edging to do and stuff. So I think in general this pattern is just kind of, ooh, I gotta do this section and then this section and this section like the whole way through. So far I've been enjoying this WIP as well. So like I said, I was kind of having an issue where I really am enjoying each of these different WIPs, and so I want to work on them all at the same time, but I can't do that. And then if I work on one WIP, it's like I feel guilty about the other WIPs. Like, I'm gonna have to put this, like I said, I think I'm gonna put this on hold, and I feel kind of guilty doing that. Like, I feel bad for the WIP. but I think that's what I'm gonna have to do in order to actually have some finished objects. Otherwise I'm just gonna be in WIP parade land forever, which I don't like doing. And on top of this, I am also going to be casting on something probably next week, a week from now, because my plan is to cast on a hood as a gift knit for my younger sister, whose birthday is also in February. And so I'm really hoping to mail one package over to my family that has the sweater for my grandma and the hood for my younger sister. And so I kind of want that to be done by mid-February as well. So I'm going to be adding another WIP to this chaos here pretty soon. So I think this guy's gonna have to go in a little time out just for a bit while I work on some other stuff. But so far, very engaging yoke. All the stuff to do. If you don't like picking up stitches, if that's like your least favorite thing in the world, this pattern is probably not for you because you do have to do a lot of picking up stitches. However, I don't mind it so much. And like I said, having all these different sections and things to do has been really engaging, so I've really liked it. But I do think that this probably wouldn't be good for a beginner because of all the picking up stitches, and there's a bunch of different parts to it. I think you should knit like a different saddle shoulder, like a more basic saddle shoulder for your first saddle shoulder. And yeah, I just don't think this is like a beginner pattern. I think it could be an intermediate and adventurous beginner pattern, but probably not good for your very first sweater ever, just because you do have to pick up so many stitches. And especially when I was a beginner, I found picking up stitches to be difficult, especially getting the rate consistent. And so if you have trouble like reading stitches, like where each stitch is, which sometimes beginners can have issues doing that, I think this would make this pattern more difficult than it is. So yeah, I don't suggest the Pearly Cardigan for absolute beginners, but adventurous beginners, intermediate and beyond, definitely could knit this. And it's been a lot of fun. So that is my last WIP, the Pearly Cardigan by Lea Ambar. So today I don't have any acquisitions other than the light green mohair that I'm using in my Monday sweater, which I showed you guys already. My upcoming plans I hinted at already, which is mainly the My Jose hood, which I am planning on casting on for my younger sister, that I'm gonna knit out of Brava Sport that I just have in stash, a nice red color. So you can look for that in the next episode. Again, if you would like to join our Staffin Knit Along, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, send me a direct message, and I am more than happy to add you to the group chat. It's a really fun environment in there. We're just really supportive and helping each other with this pattern and sharing our knitting. So that's been really fun. I hope everyone has had a good past 2 weeks and you had some time while hanging out with me to work on your own project. So I think with that, that brings us to the end of this little update, and I am going to send lots of big hugs to everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.